Okay, Hilchos Megillah, good morning. We are in the middle of Tafresh Tzadi Vav. Okay, yesterday we started Hilchos Avelus regarding Purim. So just a little recap or just a little points for Avelus. So I did look again just to see again. The words of the Shulchan Aruch itself is in your idea Tav Aleph Steve Zayin that there's ein Avelus b'Purim, lo b'Yadalit, lo b'Tedvav. So the words of the Shulchan Aruch, not only in the Beis Yosef, but in the words of the Shulchan Aruch in your idea, he follows the opinion of the Ramah, which is Maharal, Miratzenberg, and the Rosh, which is what we paskin that there's no Avelus for Hesia, but there still is Betzina.
Which was the Shita, or was it also the Rambam?
That was only the Rosh. Okay, the other two we don't paskin like. Now, the halacha is for both days. Okay, I'm not sure what I said yesterday if I addressed it, but both Yudalid and Tedvav, there's no Avelus b'far Hesia. That doesn't matter where you live. Everybody in the world gets 2 days off for b'far Hesia. And that's beferish in the Rosh, in the Beis Yosef, Mishnah Berurah, Orach Shulchan, Chazon Ovadia, V'od. However, some say on the other day, that's not your main day, where you're reading the Megillah, for most of us that would be Tedvav, Shushan Purim, but it's the opposite for those who are in Yerushalayim, Lo Yitzei Mipetach Beisa. That an Avel would not leave his house to go to Minyan, and that's Mishnah Berurah brings that. Okay. Now, just a quick recap on Avelus. Is there Avelus at nighttime? So we mentioned the Mishnah Berurah holds there is even b'far Hesia, but Rav Shlomo Zalman, Chazon Ovadia, Mikra Kodesh of Rav Frank says there is none at nighttime. By the Megillah, so we have it's a whole tug of war between Pirsume Nisa, between Purim B'Simcha and Avelus. So what happens so I just wanted to point out, at nighttime, when it comes to Megillah reading, if you're already in Shul from before, like Motzei Shabbos, you stay, everyone holds. But should you go to Shul Lechatchila, should an Avel go to Shul Lechatchila at the nighttime? So we mentioned the Mishnah Berurah says Lechatchila, an Avel should stay home with a minyan. But the Beis Yosef, the Magin Avraham, the Maharal Miratzenberg himself, the Levush, all say that no matter what, you should hear Megillah in Shul, because that's where there's more Berulvam, and the Beis Yosef says there's greater Pirsume Nisa. You shouldn't make a minyan in your house. You should go to Shul. Kol Shekain for anyone who's not an Avel. And we know that Pirsume Nisa is great, and it's Dochet Talmud Torah and Dochet the Avoda in the Beis Hamikdash. That's the Gemara in Megillah. Okay, what do you do with Tefillin? For the first day of Avelus, the halacha is an Avel, the first day of Avelus, when he comes home from the burial, the first day the Avel does not wear tefillin. And however, it's a machoket, is that only if it's the same day of the Yom HaMisa and the same day as Yom HaKavura. And most of the time it doesn't I believe most of the time it doesn't happen the same day in Eretz Yisrael, though it does happen, relatively common, that it does happen the same day. So, and there's different, machoket, that's by Hilchos Avelus and Tefillin. So just, how does that apply to Purim? Bottom line, the halacha is, when it comes to Purim, everyone holds, if it's a different day, Yom Rishon Shelo B'Yom Misa, it's 2 different days. The person dies, and then the Kvura is on the next day, a couple days later. Everybody holds that the Avel should wear tefillin on the first day, unlike during the year, because it's Purim, but not to say a bracha, safek bracha sahaka. If it's the same day, so then normally most do not wear tefillin at all. If it's the first, no one wears tefillin the same day. If it's Yom HaMisa and Yom HaKavura, normally during the year, but now it's Purim. So there it's a machlokas, and the halacha is that if it's the same day, one should not put it on. That's the Magin Avraham, the Orach Chaim, Chayadam, and Chazon Ovadia. But the Eli Rabbah does say to put it on without a bracha. Okay. But going to a Seuda without, an Avel, so going to someone else's Seuda, so Chazon Ovadia writes, for Sfardim it's 100% mutter, as long as you're not playing music over there. By Ashkenazim, most would say one should not go to a Seuda, but it all depends on the situation. Ask your Rav, it also depends, there's other people in the family that get affected by it, so it's not a davar pashut, exactly which way to go. But that's that. What about Sudas Havra? For an Avel, when he or she comes home right after the burial, so there's a Sudas Havra. The neighbors are supposed to give him a meal. Those halachas in detail we'll discuss at the end of Yoreh De'ah. But is there a Sudas Havra? So the minhag is that there is a Sudas Havra. There is a Sudas Havra on Purim. Okay? Even though, whatever, it is Purim, there's still a Sudas Havra. The neighbors give some food, except in Yerushalayim. The minhag is Yerushalayim, they do not do Sudas Havra if the burial was on Purim, but all other communities do. But the poskim write, don't give beitzim, don't give eggs or lentils. Because Sudas Havra, we'll learn when we get there. The definition of a Sudas Havra is basically the neighbors give some food. That's it. And there's a minhagim of round food and maybe bread and whatever. So that we'll get to when we get there. But the minhag for Purim is, all the poskim write, don't bring the round foods. You can probably, there's a modern thing about bringing a round piece of bread, like bagel. But that's a modern invention, and I don't think you need to worry about that. But just don't bring beitzim and adashim, because that looks like it's a ochel of Avelus. Chazon Ovadia says bring some cake. Chacham Usadam Pnei Baruch say bring some basar v'yayin. Whatever, just that's that. Now, does one do kriya? Of course, everyone holds you do kriya on Purim if someone finds out about it, an Avel finds out about it. And so there's, right, the tearing the clothing, and everyone holds an Avel. Really, it's going to be an oning, but we'll get there in a moment. Would say the bracha of Dayan HaEmes, even on Purim. That's not a question. Okay, now we are going to enter the world of Aninus. Again, just a quick recap. What's an oning? From the moment a person finds out that one of their krovim passed away, as soon as they find out, until the burial, that person is called an oning and is pater from doing all positive commandments. And that's the general rule. No davening, no brachos. No tefillin, no kriyat shema, exactly. Right? He doesn't say a bracha for netilas yadayim when he eats bread, but he still has to wash his hands, because washing is more on the negative side of halachos. Okay, just the bracha is the positive side. Okay, so that's Aninus real bekitzer. And then there's also many details when a person has the halachas of Aninus or not. We're going to touch upon that now. Like if a person has nothing to do with the body and the body moved on, and sometimes he starts Avelus immediately. And I'll just point out that Pani Meiros actually points out sometimes when a person and a loved one passes away, one of the Zayin Krovim, sometimes don't tell them on Purim. Wait until Purim is over, because then you're going to complicate him from doing the mitzvah sayom. A person is not an oning until he becomes an oning, until he finds out. And there's often no chiyuv to tell a person about someone who's nifter, a karov. Some Chazal call him sometimes a person who tells somebody a ksil. That's not the proper way to behave. Sometimes you wait to tell him, and there are cases when you don't tell him. But again, we'll discuss that when we get there. Zayin. Yesh mi she'omer. Now some say, which is the halacha, she'onein mutter bebasar v'yayin, that one is allowed to eat basar v'yayin as an oning. Normally an oning is asr to have basar v'yayin, but on Purim we're talking about it's mutter. And that's the halacha, and it applies, Lamaisa it just applies during the daytime. It's a machlokas if it applies also at night, but generally we hold it's dafka during the day that one eats basar v'yayin, an oning. Delo ate ase diyachi davelus v'dachi ase derabim deraisa, because we don't want a positive commandment of avelus to be docha a mitzvah derabim deraisa. Right? It's once against the Rabbim. Avelus is a personal Avelus, and the Rabbim is a Purim. In keeping Avelus on Purim, you're part of the Tzibor by definition, and the Tzibor is the Rabbim, and we're celebrating Purim. We said it Doraisa. Delismoach bePurim divrei Kabbalah ninu shehem ki divrei Torah. Because to be mesameach on Purim, that's divrei Kabbalah. The holiday of Purim is divrei Kabbalah, and divrei Kabbalah have the status of divrei Torah. So just to point out, we do see in Chazal, the Gemara itself, we see, such as, I think it's Rosh Hashanah Daf Yatet, but other places, sometimes we refer to Purim as Divrei Sofrim, and sometimes Divrei Kabbalah. Some Achronim are even Machalek between the day and the night by some of the mitzvahs, by Megillah, for example. Okay. And in general, what we see is from Chazal, that when anything is Divrei Kabbalah, we're often machmer and we treat it like it's a deraisa, but we still know it's a din derabanan, and therefore most Rishonim say when it comes to sveika derabanan, we say lakula, right? So also sveika b'divrei Kabbalah, most Rishonim we also say is lakula. And just a quick point out, we just mentioned that we had Yachid versus Rabbim, and here they're both sounds like deraisa, but the truth is most Rishonim also hold, even if it would be a mitzvah derabim and a mitzvah derabanan, that would still be docha a mitzvah aseh deraisa. And we see an example by Raman Gamliel who frees his slave. And it says, La'olam behem tavodu, you have to makayim the mitzvah aseh of keeping a slave and not freeing him, but he did it for the mitzvah derabanan of having a davening with the minyan. Yes, there's a minority opinion who holds he did it because that was a minyan for Parsha Zachar. Okay. Anyways, that's a separate topic. So let's go to Haggah. V'kol shekein shechaya b'mikra Megillah tefillah kriyat Shema. And certainly the Ramah writes, you'd be chayav in mikra Megillah, tefillah, and kriyat Shema, because it's all connected to the to Purim and the Megillah. V'nireli, but then he rereads, the dafka b'layla, only at nighttime, that an onain does these things. Afal pi shemeto muta lafanav, even though the body is in front of him. Why? Aval bayom, because at nighttime, in his times, they never buried at night. So at nighttime, this is a whole machlokas by Aninus. What's the status of an onain at nighttime? According to the Ramah over here, we see that either he's not a full onain, or he's allowed to. It's a whole other question. Are you allowed to be machmer and say bracha? So you see, anyways, from the words of the Ramah, what he writes, Lamaisa, we all hold that even at nighttime, a person who's an onain has the halachas of an onain or aninus. And therefore, even though one is not going to bury a body at nighttime, he's still, an onain is still an onain and is still pater from all the mitzvos at nighttime. Also, there is, especially nowadays, there is what to do at nighttime as far as making plans. You have phones, computers, and this and that. And people are often busy making signs, like whatever they're doing. But anyways, Lamaisa, generally we all hold, all communities, that an onain at nighttime is an onain at nighttime. And kol shekain in Eretz Yisrael, when often the burial does happen at nighttime. Aval, bayom shirotza lakovra, but during the day when one wants to do the kavura smeito kodim. So he says clearly, the mace himself, the onain himself wants to take care of the mace, and therefore should worry about the burial and not Megillah reading. So therefore, the onain would read the Megillah when he's no longer an onain, after the burial, when he turns into an avel. It's no different than Yom Tov and Shabbos, Ken Nir Eli, that basically when you're able to do the kavura, so then the onain has the halachas of Aninus, and when he's not able to, so then he's treated like Shabbos and Yom Tov, where we do mitzvahs. So that's the opinion of the Ramah. Generally, we hold that even on Purim, even at nighttime, an onain is 100% pater, and it's aser to daven, and it's aser to. It's so. The one exception is hearing the Megillah. Hearing the Megillah, the poskim point out that he should go to shul to listen, but he shouldn't read himself, and he shouldn't say the brachos, and he shouldn't be motzi other people.
I don't think he's supposed to say Amen, right? I don't think he says Amen.
Not sure. Not sure. To
I
double
recall,
check.
I think he does not say Amen, but
I
don't want to
believe
speak out of context.
I believe you're correct. It wouldn't be an avera, but I believe you're right. Okay. So lechadchila an onain, unless the kavura is at nighttime, unless the onain is actually busy. So, but if he's not, if the onain is not busy, then he should go to shul to hear the Megillah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's go on. Yeah. Okay. And even if an onain did hear the Megillah in the morning before the burial, after the burial, this onain, who now becomes an avel, should repeat reading the Megillah without a bracha. For sure without a bracha, because it could be you were yotzei, but it could be you're pater and you cannot be yotzei. So that's a whole diyun by more of a diyuk in Hilchos Aninus. Okay, let's go to Chet. Mutar lisa isha bepurim. You're allowed to get married on Purim. There's no isser. There is an isser on Chol HaMoed. The Torah says v'samachta bechagecha. And the Chazal say v'lo be'ishtecha, and not by Purim. There's an important halacha of ein marbin simcha b'simcha, but lamaisa that halacha never applies by a wedding. That's a concept. There's a machlokas in, I believe it's in the Gemara, not just the Rishonim, but we paskin it's only v'samachta bechagecha v'lo be'isha by Chol HaMoed. But you are allowed to get married every other time. You don't say otherwise, Marvin Simcha B'Simcha, when it comes to weddings. We do say it in some cases when it's applicable. Okay. And you can do Pidyon Aben, let me read the words inside. The Ramah continues, Haga, Bein B'Yadalid, Mein B'Tedvav. Now all these halachas, it applies the same. Certainly you're allowed to do Pidyon Haben, and you're also allowed to do a Bris Milah. Now we know there's a great minhag to wear costumes on Purim, very nice. And there are some men who wear women clothing and vice versa. And Isur Badavar, so the Ramah writes, and Yisur Badavar, miachar she'ein mechavnim el l'simcha ba'alma. They're only doing it in order to have fun, and to have it as a costume. No one's doing it because they're doing it because they think that's the appropriate clothing for them. So therefore, it's mutter. Right? The only iser, the araisa of wearing the opposite clothing, the opposite gender clothing, is when you're doing it because in a manner that it's like you're dressing like them, for the sake of dressing like them, or you think you are the other gender, even worse. V'chein b'levishas kil'ayim derabanan. Well, there's no heter for Purim. I mean, by itself, it's the same concept. When we get there, we'll get there. But really, but on Purim, some people became knowing to do it. V'chein b'levishat kil'ayim derabanan, even wearing kil'ayim derabanan, because it's done for the costume, not to keep you warm, not as clothing. V'yesh omrim da'aser, and some say that it's completely aser.
Both or just the
Both. You're wearing costumes that have the wrong gender? Yeah, 100% aser. Some say. Aval haminag kisvara rishona. But he realizes the minag is to be mekel, and one is perhaps allowed. The minag is to be mekel. That's what he writes. The Bach writes, again, there's many achronim and rishonim who discuss the issue. I'll just quote for the sake, the Mishnah Berurah brings the Bach, who says one should stop this minhag, it's inappropriate. The Shalah also says one should not wear such clothing. The Chazon Ovadia is against it, but the minhag is often say it's mutter. V'chein, let's see. Yeah, v'chein b'nei Adam hachotfim ze mizeh derech simcha. Also, people take things from one another on Purim. There is such a minhag. People basically steal from one another. They grab it and take it. Ein bazeh mishum lo tigzal. On Purim, there's no iser of lo tigzal. V'na'agu kach, and that became the minhag. Ubilvad, and No, and the reason why it could be okay is because everyone walks into the day with the assumption and knowing that this is common knowledge that you're allowed to, and everyone automatically knows that is mochel, and they're going to guard things that they don't want people to steal. Ubilvad shelo yasu davar shelo kehogen al pi tuvei ha'ir. Now, only though the Ramak says it's only possible to be mutter if it's done in a way that the community agrees with it. If the tuvei ha'ir, the community, the shul makes announcements and everyone agrees it's aser, so then it's probably completely aser. Okay, and the Shalah is also he's against it as well. Okay, so many are against it. Chazon Ovadia writes also to have these Rav Purim fests when you pretend to be the Rav and make fun of him, and V'chule, he says that's completely aser, and right, you can't embarrass the Rav and Moshe Leitzim just because it's Purim. Okay, I think let's go to the last. Taf Reish Tzadi Zayin. Ein omrim tchina b'yod dalad v'tetvav sheba'adar rishon v'din tanit v'hesped b'hen. Okay, so this is regarding Adar Rishon, right? We learned before which is the real Adar, but when it comes to Purim, everybody agrees Adar Sheni is when Purim is. So what happens to Adar Aleph when you have a leap year? So Aleph. Yom Yod Dalad v'tetvav sheba'adar rishon. So even in Adar Rishon, it has part of the aura of the day of Purim. Okay, it's a mini Adar Sheni. Ein ofin al paneim. We don't say tachanan. Ve'ein omrim mizmor yancha Hashem b'yom tzara. We don't mention that mizmor. Mentions it's about tzara, so suffering. Ve'asurim b'hesped v'tanit. So both days are asur b'hesped and tanit, and we learned also Avelus b'ferhesya. Right? Aval shar dvarim ein nohagim behen. But other things don't apply. Right? In the first Adar Rishon, there's no mitzvah to do. So far, that's what we're reading. There's no mitzvah, certainly chiyuv whatsoever, for the other mitzvahs of Purim. Mikra Megillah, Mishtev, Simcha, all these things. V'yesh omrim da'af behesped v'tanit mutarim. And some say, no, you are allowed to do hesped and tanit in Adar Aleph. Okay? Adar Aleph, we don't say al anisim because there's no Mikra Megillah. We don't say tzidkatcha by Shabbos Mincha because it's, again, we don't say Tachanun. It's all the same.
When it says Yudal and Tesvav, is that regarding Yerushalmi and other people, or both Yudal and Tesvav for everybody?
So generally we say it applies to both, for everybody. Yeah, 100%, just like during the year. If you read the Mishnah Berurah, he says, Avalo betetvav, but not on the 15th. He's going on what we're about to read in the Ramah, and many of the poskim disagree with this Mishnah Berurah. So here, let's read. I would just say it applies equally to both. Haga. V'haminhag kisvara rishona, and the minhag is like the first minhag, right? Stam, that both days, tetvav and yadalit for everybody, and other aleph and under base. The kula is applied. Yesh omrim, and some say, in contrast to the Shulchan Aruch, shechayev laharbos b'mishta v'simcha, that some should make some party or seuda, just like on Purim, even on Adar Aleph, b'yadalit sheba'adar rishon. Okay, so that's so here. Many say here's what it is. Yud Daled ba'adar would apply to making the seuda for the entire world. And for those who live in Yerushalayim, it would only be they would do the Suda on Tet Vav. That's not like the Mishnah Berurah. There's the poskim who live in Yerushalayim don't follow this Mishnah Berurah. They say you do it on Tet Vav. A mini Suda on Adar Aleph. Ve'ein no hagin kain. Now, there is no real minhag that you need to do this on Adar Aleph. Most of us don't make a Suda on Adar Aleph. Mikol makom, but the Ramah points out, no. Yar b'ktsas b'suda. Even though there's no chiyuv and there's no established minhag to make a suda in Adar Aleph, one should make a small suda, something extra in Adar Aleph, kadei latzeit yidei hamachmirim, in order to be machmir, v'tov leiv mishte tamid. And someone should always have a good heart and be besimcha, And the Mishnah Berurah qualifies. What does the Ramah mean? He means you should always be mesameach in the nisim of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Whenever you have a chance to make a seuda, even a small one, to show the nisim of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, in order to strengthen our amuna and akara satov to Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's always a good thing, and therefore it should be done in Adar Aleph.
Shkoyach.